Greetings, this is the Timeshare Traveler. Today is episode 156, 156, using timeshares to decide where to retire. And that's a novel idea. So what I'm going to do cover in the overview here is use timeshares to explore new areas. That's not surprising for those of you who have timeshares. Over the years, where do you go repeatedly? So figure out your habits. Kind of nice way to think about on top of just doing vacations, but sort of in the back of your mind, where are you going? Does the location become family friendly? So it doesn't do a whole lot of good if you're going to be all on your own on retirement, and particularly if you have a family. And the next thing is you turn into two different options. Just, wow, do I have enough timeshares? Do I want a part-time second home, and do I just add a little bit to my timeshares and my timeshares become my virtual second home? Or do you want to buy the second home because you've traveled to the location, you've nailed it where you want it, and do you have points to use for travel? So I'm going to go into a lot of detail to explain how you do all those, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about my channel, then I'll be right back. Hang in there for the detail. Hi, this is Cliff and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. Welcome to my channel. The purpose of my channel is to educate those who love traveling in timeshares. I've been an owner for 15 plus years at timeshare ownership. I have elite ownership with Marriott, Hilton, and Worldmark. I have published over 100 timeshare video reviews, and I've published over 95 timeshare tips. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, at Twitter, Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com. Well, he's back. So the first topic is use timeshares to explore new areas. Some people retire in place, nothing wrong with that. But some people like to retire to a place more suited for retirement activities. Timeshares are often located where retirees like to travel, and you can use your timeshares as both family getaways and a search for future retirement. So if you buy your timeshares when you're younger, you might have 20 years to explore to actually find that perfect location. So over the years, do you tend to go, the question is, over the years, do you tend to go to the same place or do you go to different places? Maybe you either retire in places, one option is using your timeshares as a virtual retirement place, or you go to multiple locations and you just block out 2 months of the year, say the two hottest or two coldest months of the year, depending on where you live. The next thing to think about is over the years, do you tend to go to different places, or you tend to sort of go to repeated places? I tend to go to Hawaii a lot, but I probably would say I go to multiple places in Hawaii. So one island, I don't know that would necessarily be a good thing for me. But other people, I go to Florida, they go to Florida every winter with friends and so forth. Or they go to Europe, that was an example. Other people choose, well, I like golf locations, or I like mountains, or I like oceans. So it isn't necessarily a physical place. It might be a type of place. Or is every year a new adventure in a new location? So are you one of those people that's, the bucket list never ends? And that's not a bad adventure. And a new place each year is preferred. So that right there, if that's who you are, maybe a second home in the traditional sense isn't a place to retire. More just means you'll have more time to finish the bucket list. The last thing I would tell you is, if you can, go for travel for more than 2 weeks, multiple times if you can. And the reason I say that is that's a little more like retirement, where you're not waking up like you've got the whole week's planned or the multiple weeks planned. That's really a break from work, and it's sort of like work. Whereas retirement is you have more free time, and that's why I say 2 weeks or more a month is ideal, to give yourself a sense of what it would be like in retirement. One of my next considerations is, does the location become family friendly? Do you travel with family? You will start, the kids want to visit and hope they like the location, so it's something important to know. Is it good for the grandkids? So it can't just be, retirement community where it's difficult when the grandkids come, because then it makes it difficult for the parents. And if you're trying to think of that from a family perspective, you want to try to figure out how to think through all the multiple levels of generations and balancing what you like to do and what your family likes to do. And do your kids and their families enjoy traveling with you? Some people There's a joke. Some of the people say some people like to travel with family. Some people like to travel to get away from family. So you kind of have to figure out what that is. And the other question is, instead of family, do you tend to travel more with friends? And you have, a lot of people move with their friends to retirement areas like Florida or Arizona, so that, maybe you would have friends that are the timeshare friends that you have. And a timeshare allows you to verify you like traveling together, or you like living in the same area together. So anyway, that's another option for you to consider. Now let's talk about sort of the two choices once you do find that location, when there's two different ways you can go. Yeah, do you have enough points to live part-time at your desired location, or locations, as it were? You may find that, I really just try to want to get away from the cold for 2 months, if you live in, say, Minnesota, or if you live in Arizona. I just want to get out of the heat for 2 months. And so then a virtual timeshare, maybe you already have your second home and you just didn't know it, because now you have your timeshares, and maybe you just need to add, another couple purchases, or one more purchase, and you have enough points to travel for those 2 months. That's all you really need, because you really like your friends and the family where you live, and that is where you want to technically retire. You want to retire in place, but have the ability to escape the winter or the summer, depending on the scenario I just gave. So you really don't need to invest anymore in the second home, because your vacations you've been using throughout the years with your timeshares are now your virtual second home. So you didn't, without a whole lot of planning, you just sort of ended up with, I've got my virtual retirement. How important is your stuff is the other thing I want to say. The offset to that is, how important is your stuff? And by stuff, I mean, do you need to have your couch, your chair, your whatever? And so that leads you more toward, I really want a real second home where I could put stuff in. And then you may want to retire from booking reservations. I've heard people say, I love being in my timeshares if I just didn't have to do all the booking. So those could be the things. So that's kind of trying to decide whether that second home matters. So let's talk about now where you do choose a second home, and how can you transition your timeshares. So in this scenario, you've actually found that you like a single location, and the timeshares have found you that location, and that's really all you needed it for. So now you're going to just buy your place and have a second home, where you're going to move to that new place where you're going to retire. And then maybe you don't want to travel as much, and then you can start giving to your kids. You can start giving your points away to them, so that if you don't have enough, or again, if you have enough, you move from, say, Minnesota to Arizona, which a lot of people do. Now you need to escape the heat for 2 months, and back to the scenario I was just describing. And maybe you plan to travel less in retirement. Some people do. They want to sort of relax, do their hobbies, friends, family. Now that becomes their job, is really helping with the grandkids and all that kind of stuff. And then some travel will be enough. So, but again, I think sort of in summary, I tried to look at, you can use the timeshares as you're traveling, but also as a way to think, would I want to retire doing this? Am I the kind of person who retire and travel more, or am I the kind of person who wants to have a spot and then do minimal travel? So all these different options. Hopefully you've had a chance as I went through this to enjoy that. And so don't forget to give it a thumbs up or a like. And if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe.